Imagine standing on the edge of a massive, roaring waterfall, looking out over a valley of endless green. Deep, sapphire lakes dot the landscape. Herds of elephants and giraffes move through tall grasslands, while hippos splash in winding rivers. You might think you are standing in the heart of the Serengeti, but you are not. You are standing in the middle of the Sahara. 6,000 years ago, this was not a fantasy. It was reality. The Sahara was a lush, fertile paradise. But then, Earth's orbit shifted. The rains stopped. The soil turned to dust, creating a barrier of sand so hostile it split the African continent in two. But what if that shift never happened? What if the monsoon rains kept falling, and the Sahara stayed green forever? In our timeline, the drying of the Sahara forced ancient humans to flee. They squeezed into the narrow Nile Valley, a desperate migration that sparked the rise of ancient Egypt. But in this alternate world, there is no need to flee. The Nile is not a solitary lifeline. Instead, the entire northern half of Africa is a canvas of flowing rivers and sprawling forests. Lake Megachad, which in our world is a shrinking puddle, remains a colossal inland sea, larger than all the North American Great Lakes combined. Picture ancient fleets of wooden ships sailing across this massive body of water, connecting rival kingdoms. Instead of just one Egypt, we get a dozen distinct, advanced civilizations rising simultaneously across the continent. They build stone cities along the banks of rivers that flow from the heart of Africa directly into the Mediterranean. There is no barrier. No isolation. The exchange of ideas, technology, and culture is explosive. Now, let's fast forward. Without the desert barrier, the Mediterranean is no longer the southern edge of the known world. It is a bridge. Imagine the rise of Rome. In our history, Rome easily conquered the thin strip of arable land in North Africa, turning it into their personal breadbasket. But now, they look south and do not see a wall of sand. They see a sprawling, wealthy empire of millions, backed by endless resources. Or perhaps, Rome never rises at all. Carthage, Rome's greatest rival, sits on the edge of this green paradise. With an infinite supply of timber, horses, and soldiers from the lush African interior, Carthage does not fall. Hannibal Barca does not just cross the Alps with a handful of elephants, he marches an unstoppable, endlessly supplied coalition of African nations into the heart of Italy. Rome is crushed. Carthage becomes the master of the Western world, fueled by a trade network that stretches from the Baltic Sea all the way to the Gulf of Guinea. But the ripples of a green Sahara stretch far beyond Europe and Africa. Think about the Americas. In our timeline, European nations sailed west because the Silk Road to Asia was blocked, and they had the naval technology born of centuries of maritime rivalry. In this world, the West African coast is home to massive, wealthy maritime empires. They do not look to the desert for trade, they look to the Atlantic. With abundant timber from the Green Sahara, West African shipbuilders construct massive ocean-going vessels. Driven by curiosity and trade, they ride the Atlantic currents straight to the shores of Brazil, centuries before Christopher Columbus is even born. The first global age of exploration is not led by Spain or Portugal, but by the kingdoms of the Green West. And what of the dark chapters of our history? The transatlantic slave trade, which devastated Africa for centuries, relied on the relative isolation and division of the continent's interior. In a world of interconnected African superpowers, this tragedy never takes shape. Instead, Africa is the center of global trade, science, and wealth. The Industrial Revolution might not begin in the cold, coal-rich hills of Britain, but in the sun-drenched, river-powered cities of the Saharan Basin. Today, the Sahara is a quiet graveyard of sand, hiding the bones of ancient rivers and forgotten civilizations beneath its dunes. It is a reminder of how fragile our planet's climate truly is, and how a slight tilt in Earth's axis can rewrite the destiny of humanity. Imagine looking at a globe today and seeing a vibrant, green heart in Africa, teeming with life, culture, and history. It makes you wonder, what other worlds are we missing, just because the wind blew a different way? If you want to keep exploring the hidden paths of history, make sure to subscribe and join us for the next journey. What do you think would have been the greatest change in this green world? Let us know in the comments below.